So, and we're being recorded. So this is an info session for Social Sector Solutions. My name is Nora Silver. I'm one of the co-instructors for what we call fondly S Cubed, also one of the founders of S Cubed, and I'm the founder of the Center for Social Sector Leadership at Haas. And I want to talk you through this program, what's expected of students, what's expected of clients, what we offer as instructors, the partnership with McKinsey, and also the different clients we have this year, which I am very, very excited about, and I hope you will be as well. So let's start with the course. If we could start with the course objectives. Okay, so this course really is designed to help make exquisitely good decisions and to problem solve based on data. The purpose of that is to persuade decision makers and prepare organizations for success, in this case, entrepreneurial success. Now, that's how we designed it. That's what we think the course is as instructors. Why students tend to take the course is to explore management consulting, the process of it, which is over the 15 weeks of the course, follows exactly management consulting process, and also the mindset, the thinking of management consultants and how you approach a problem and how you solve it. Also, students take it because they want some experience with social sector organizations on critical issues. And I will preview that all of our clients came in and we select with critical questions, not nice to have questions, but really mission central critical questions for them now. And other students take the course to make a real difference on that issue. This year we have a lot of equity and justice issues, education, health, impact investing. So that's why students take the course. Let me kind of show you what the course is composed of. If we could go to the next. Okay, so first of all, this is a course that's offered on Tuesday evenings, 6 to 9:30, usually in the iLab. Now we will be online, and it's for MBAs, other graduate students, and undergrads. In addition to those 15 Tuesday evenings, we have a kickoff on January 29th, which I believe is a Friday from 3 to 5, and a finale, the last class session, May 11th. And what are we doing during those class sessions? So the class sessions generally look like this. We're teaching you about something, and then you're in your teams applying it. So what are we teaching you? We're teaching consulting skills. You will learn how to write a scoping letter, how to create a work plan. You will learn about client management. You'll learn to develop a storyline. You'll learn to deliver a midterm and a final presentation in terms of PowerPoint, in terms of managing the event, and in terms of communications. We're also serious about this being a team event, as consulting is. Consulting is a team sport. And so you'll have contracts within your teams, you'll have feedback sessions with professional coaches. When you come in, you'll be talking about what you want to get out of the course. That will be part of what your team assumes responsibility for. And then finally, we talk about social sector organizations. So we start with the 10 things you really need to know and understand about them. I understand some of you come from social sector backgrounds, many of you don't. This is a chance to either experience them anew or experience them in a different way from how you might have experienced them before. We cover theory of change, and we cover what high impact social sector organizations do. So again, the class session looks like half an hour, 45 minutes tops. We're teaching you something, then you're in your teams applying it or doing the work and integrating the different work streams you're working on from outside of class. And I can answer any questions about that as we go on. So next slide. What we're most proud of with S Cubed is that we really believe, and the feedback we get is that it's a high quality learning experience. And this little graphic just shows you the components of what makes it high quality. So one thing is the teams. I'm choosing team leads now. That's a pivotal position in S Cubed. Generally, it's somebody with a consulting background who leads the team. Teams are generally made up of a couple of other MBAs, a graduate student from another school, and an undergraduate student. We lean heavily toward interdisciplinary teams. We hear from our former teams that that's one of the things that they really appreciated in a Haas class, is working with people from different backgrounds. We choose our social sector organizations. I'll go into detail about that later, but they have a project lead also and a client team. The instructors, I co-teach this with Paul Jansen, who's also an adjunct professor at Haas, and importantly, McKinsey Director Emeritus. Paul was the co-founder of McKinsey's social sector practice. And the final component of who's helping the teams is McKinsey coach. So each team gets their own experienced McKinsey coach. And it is that combination of a very structured learning experience. Our 15 weeks really follows the course of a management consultation with the support of people with different backgrounds on your team, a McKinsey coach, and Paul and I meeting with you every Tuesday night and beyond if necessary, that makes this, we think, the high quality experience that it is. So let me pause there. I can actually take any questions right now about the class if you have them, because where we're going next is the different projects, how to apply, and we're going to hear from two former team members from last year. So is there any question at this point about the structure of the course itself?
I have a question, Nora.
Okay.
I'm wondering how the course is being adapted, given that it's likely to be completely remote.
Right. Great question, Michael. We actually went remote in the middle of the class last year because the class this year was January to May. So mid-March, we went remote. And I'll let two of the team members who are here today talk about it. From my vantage point, it was remarkably smooth because so much of the work is done. You know, there's a plenary session where we're teaching something right at the beginning. You can listen to that as easily in your classroom, Zoom, right? And then you break out in breakout rooms with your teams. So you're really with 5 people total in a breakout room for most of the class. Meeting with the clients, it didn't seem to be a problem. We had a client as far as Singapore last year, and it just went smoothly is what I can tell you. And then the 1 hour when you talk with a client and the 1 hour a week when you talk with your McKinsey coach, they're usually by telephone anyway, so the Zoom worked just fine.
Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else at this point? Okay, let me talk about the clients. This is an exciting part of it. So here are their logos. I'm going to talk about each of them in a little depth, happy to answer questions, and do know that when for MBAs, you bid into the course and then you apply. So online right now is not only the next slide that you're going to see, but more in-depth descriptions of each of the projects as well. So this is not your only chance to see them. So if we could go to the next slide, please. All right, so right now we have 7 clients. And as you can see, they're in industries as diverse as food, justice, education, impact investing. And I'll go one by one and try to bring these to life for you, because what happens before now is we've scoped the projects at least twice, and they will be scoped again by the team lead before you start in January. But these organizations came with these projects. So Berkeley Food Network is our second time with S-Cube. 3 years ago, they came with a startup plan as their request. They launched 3 years ago. They've been remarkably successful, and now they're coming back for a growth strategy. So really kind of classic consulting project, growth strategy. Embedded in this, though, is something else that you should be aware of, and that is that Berkeley Food Network sources food, prepackaged or excess food from different vendors. They want to pivot a bit, and they want to become more heavily invested in locally and sustainably produced fruits and vegetables and appropriate foods. My hunch is this might be more of a pivot than they might expect, in that food might spoil more easily, more quickly. They might need different kinds of vans or refrigeration or anything like that, but it is a growth strategy with an addition of sustainability to it. California Change Lawyers. This is a justice play. So this is an organization that's spun off from the California State Bar Association. And what their charge is, they're trying to diversify lawyers in the state of California. What they told me is that 80% of lawyers in California are Caucasian, yet the people who use the criminal justice system or the justice system anyway are much more diverse than that in the state. So what they're asking for is a marketing plan to describe the importance of what they do, the importance of diversity in law to people who will use the system and to the society in general. And then the importance of what California Changemakers is doing to raise more diversity in the field. So they want, their long-term goal is more donors, but their short-term goal is how do we tell our story better? They also have a very interesting 25% of their revenue is from a for-profit enterprise. 75% is earned revenue. And they're wondering, is that the right mix or should they be doing something different? So you'll see in a lot of these, if not all of these clients, there is a question about for-profit, not-for-profit, different kinds of sources of revenue. So that's California Changemakers. California Primary Care Association. So this is an association that's behind almost 1,400 community health centers throughout the state of California. And community health centers are the folks who really best serve low income and diverse patients who otherwise might fall through the cracks and not get health care. So California Primary Care Association is looking at new service lines, basically back office service lines that they can provide to the community health centers so the community health centers can bill better, get better reimbursement, shift to a new healthcare delivery system called value-based care, find CFOs, a bunch of things in their service line. At the same time that they want to provide this service, CPCA wants to be a revenue generator for them. I will say that on the client end, the lead is somebody who actually teaches at Haas and Berkeley. Brent Copen is his name. He's a strategic financial person. So that should be an interesting and complex project. Designing Justice and Designing Spaces. Restorative Justice Program. This is a program that has designed in concert with people coming out of prison, mobile refuge units, rooms. And these are kind of freestanding units that provide some privacy and dignity for people. And their question is, in part because of COVID, right now there's urgency because prisons are emptying. And where do people who've been in prison go? And housing is the number one, first issue to solve. And so DJDS is looking at and being asked to provide more of these mobile refuge homes. They have a developer, a manufacturer, they have a delivery mechanism, but they want two things. They want to be able to kind of ramp up very quickly in response to COVID. And they also want to make sure that they have the formerly incarcerated involved in every aspect of their business. So they've designed in concert with former inmates, and they also want to see if they can employ people who've been in prison in the manufacturing, the distribution, the setup of these mobile units. In fact, the way this came to us was from somebody who was formerly an inmate at San Quentin with whom I had worked through S-Cubed years ago for the San Quentin News, which is the only prisoner-produced newspaper in the country. So that's Designing Justice, Designing Spaces. Scout Fund is an impact investing question. And this is a woman who lives in Berkeley, started this fund. It's actually two funds in 2019. And this is the big question. Where should she focus? What should the strategy be? What kinds of early stage social impact companies should she invest in? She's got an LLC that invests in ESG companies, and then the profit from there goes to a donor advised fund at the Marin Community Foundation. And they have a venture fund there that invests specifically in the companies. So questions of what's the strategy, where should they focus, outreach to certain, or identification, I should say, identification of relevant companies, helping Scout Fund be more attractive to them, and then what's the balance of funds between those two funds? That's the question from Scout Fund. Urban Ed Academy. Urban Ed Academy is 3 to 5 years old, and what they provide is a fellowship for Black, Brown, and Indigenous men graduating from college, mostly from historically Black community colleges and universities, to come to San Francisco to teach in elementary schools in San Francisco. The idea being that they want students to see teachers who look like themselves. The added advantage of this program, in addition to giving people jobs and a path to credentialing, meaning a career, is that they provide housing. And for any of you who have looked for housing in San Francisco, you know how difficult and costly that is. So here's the question they've brought to us. Their question is, can they create a housing option that would do two things? Provide housing for their fellows, but also could they get a zero or low cost debt financing that would help refurbish homes in Bayview Hunters Point, which is the southeast section of San Francisco. So refurbish these homes, keep them in the hands of local people in the community, improve the homes while housing the fellows. I hope you followed that. It's a complex question, I understand, but it's a very interesting housing question in the service of education. Writer-Coach Connection. Also urban education. Writer-Coach Connection is in the East Bay, here in Alameda and Contra Costa counties, working primarily in low-income and marginalized communities. And what they provide are coaches that go into middle school and high school classrooms and provide coaching on two things for students, on critical thinking and on writing skills. So for instance, if a teacher is assigning a project on a research project on something of the student's choice, or a research project on your family background or whatever, the coaches will go in and help draw out the student's own thinking. Part of the idea here is to help students articulate their own voice and their own views. And the coaches help them with bringing out the articulation and the writing of those questions. So let me pause here. I hope you agree with me that these are pretty interesting and exciting projects. I'm happy to answer any questions about them. No questions. I couldn't have explained them that well.
I don't have a question, but I do agree that they're interesting projects. I'll just say that.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah, they look really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, we really look for diversity of different kinds of industries, and then different kinds of questions like metrics or marketing or financial model. And I think this time we popped a particularly interesting set of organizations that span nonprofit, for-profit questions and industries like housing and education. So I'm glad to hear, John, thank you for your enthusiasm about them that I share. Any other questions about them?
I guess one question that I would have logistically, looks like it was 7 projects here and 4 people per project. Does that mean there's like 28 people in the class? And how do we choose which project we'd be working on, or how do we get selected for that?
What a segue. Thank you so much, John. Let's go ahead to the next slide and I'll explain. Thank you.
Could I ask a quick question about one of
Sure.
the projects real quick
Yes,
before we
let's
do
go back
that?
for a minute.
Sorry
Go ahead.
I was gonna
No,
ask.
don't be
On
sorry,
the
please.
on the Urban Ed Academy, the
Yes.
policy leadership in the Black male educator space, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I think as they see it, as Urban Ed Academy sees it, there are a number of programs that are trying to get more people of color basically into the teaching profession, right? And the programs look similar in the sense that there's often a fellowship period. I mean, think about even Teach for America, right? It's a two-year placement. And now there are a number of, I wouldn't say a lot, but there are a number of programs that are trying to kind of repopulate teaching. Urban Ed Academy is looking at this kind of the housing, the community development aspect and the fellowship as a new way to look at the integration of education and communities. So they're using the housing as a model for some policy that could free up housing or give, I'm making this part up, Jane, that could have tax credits or something like that. But they're looking at this as a policy play as well as a direct service play.
Hi, Nora. I have a question about that.
Okay.
You said that it's Livia.
Hi, Livia.
You said that the educators would be living in a specific housing in Hunters Point, and then they would want 0% financing to make that housing better. Would they be living like in a community with other families, or it would be like they're issued, house that they need to fix that?
It's a great question. How they're imagining it right now is that an individual fellow, maybe two, would live in a house with a family. But I think you're already starting to think of what else might this look like. I mean, could it be a house that's vacant, that houses 6 fellows? I think they're very open to different options here.
Great, thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Okay, let me go back then to the questions in the next slide about how do you get into S cubed? How does this work? So the first thing I want to say is please, please only apply if you're really ready to make a commitment to this. We ask for 8 to 12 hours a week from team members. 3.5 hours is in class. There's often an hour a week with your client, sometimes an hour a week with your coach. So let's say we're up to like 4 or 5 hours a week. And the other hours, 4 to 8 hours, are largely doing a work stream, a specific work stream. And so they can be on your own time. So that's what the time commitment looks like. I will also say that, as you can imagine, given these questions the clients are asking, we try to put together teams that have not only diverse backgrounds, but also bring a diverse skill set. So if you apply and we put you on a team of your choice, which I'll explain in a minute, we're really counting on you to be part of that team. Okay, so please, this is not, well, I'll throw my hat in the ring and see what happens. This is, if you apply, we will do our very best to accept you and to put you on a team of your choice. But once we do that, you've kind of been customized for that team. So that's why it's important to apply if you're really ready to make a commitment. And if you have any questions about that, I'm really happy to talk with you about that and think it through with you. S Cubed is an applied innovation course. So if you haven't hit that yet at Haas, there are no drops ads, because once we assign you to a client, we give the client the team list. So they're counting on you as well. And we will try to give you one of your very top 2 to 3 choices. And we're almost always able to do that. So could we go to the next slide, Mark? Okay, so what happens? So if you're an MBA what you do is you bid points. I think you have a session this week about how to bid. Does that sound familiar to anyone?
Yes, that's coming up.
Maybe not. All right, soon you will learn about bidding. It's not that obtuse. Basically, you get about 1,000 points to spread over 2 electives. That's what happens, okay? And you get to choose how many points you allocate according to your preferences. So if you bid enough points, you'll get into S-Cube. This is for evening, weekend, and full-time MBAs, right? First years, second years, bid points. Once you get in, we then send you an application, okay? And now, the application is sent to all students who want to join S-Cube. And that application asks for 3 things. First thing is, with a resume, tell us about your background. Okay, what do you bring to S-Cubed? And it might not be on your resume. It might be, I have a brother who suffered from XYZ, and this project speaks to me because of his experience and our family's experience. So put in that anything that really is what draws you to S-Cubed. The second question is, what do you want to get out of it? And we're serious about that because we will hand to the team leads, and as part of that team contract, your team and your team lead will be responsible for helping you meet whatever objectives you have for coming to S-Cubed. And then the third question is, please rank order your preferences of the clients. Okay. If you are an MBA and you bid enough points to get in, right, you are in the class. And then as soon as you bid, we send you that application. We ask for it back very quickly because we're going to start populating the teams with you first. Then we take the applications from anybody else, the other grad students and the undergrads. I don't know if we have anybody other than MBAs on this call, but if we do, applications are due November 13th before midnight. Okay, and then we put them all in a pile. I do the first sort on them. I give them to team leads, anyone who's ranked their preference 1, 2, or 3, and we go from there because the team leads who are in the process of being selected now, they haven't been selected yet. So if that's your interest, get back to me immediately. There are a couple of positions open, but we ask the team leads to think of, all right, what are the skills and knowledge and experience and background you're looking for on your team? And that's how we start to form the 7 strongest teams to make sure we have the skills and experience needed for each. Did I answer your question about how we choose teams? John, was that? Okay. Anybody have any other questions about how we choose?
Nora, I believe Elton raised his hand.
Oh, okay, thanks. I didn't see him. Alton?
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, I'm an undergrad and I was wondering for registration into the class, would we then sign up for UGBA 192T after getting the application back then, or?
Okay, good question. What happens is you apply. If you're selected for a team, we let everyone know the very beginning of December. Okay, we meet, we decide, we let you know either way. If you're selected for a team, we register you in UGBA 192.2. You can't register yourself. It's a selection process only.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Sure. Any other questions? Anybody else I missed? Okay, well, let's get up here then. 2 people who were team members last year. Sar and Yang Kai.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay, all right, let's get you up here. So,
Yep.
So if you would share with people, basically, what was your project? What was your role on the team? What did you like best about it? What did you like least about it? And maybe why did you apply to S-Cube last year? What were you looking for? So I know that's a lot.
Yeah, it's
But
all
I'll
right.
prompt you. So why take S-Cube last year?
You want to go first or
Sure.
just
Yeah, go ahead. You okay?
Okay, I can go. I applied as a team member last year, and let me introduce myself firstly for a few seconds. I'm a class of 2020 MBA. So I have graduated this year, 3-4 months ago, and so that would be when I applied to SQ. It's my last semester, and I was a management consultant at Accenture for 4 years before coming to MBA. So I was a management consultant that I really loved my consulting experience, but I decided to pivot my career into tech, mainly product. So, but I really want to see that if I really sharpen my skill or I learn enough for my consulting career. So I have 2 consulting projects during my MBA. I did IBD previously, and I really love the experience and the consulting experience with different type of people. And for SQ, it's a mix of the undergrads or even MPH students and the MBA, and very diverse background. And it really make it the best, one of the best experience of consulting for me. And the lastly is I want to give back to Haas community. I feel it really is a life-changing experience for me, and I try to do more and help leverage my previous skill to help the team and the whole community and program.
Okay. And Sarah, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, great. Hey, everyone on the call. I think I recognize some familiar faces and names. I'm also a CMG peer advisor for social impact. I know I've spoken to some of you all one-on-one. A little background on myself, originally from the DC area. I was also a former consultant, so I worked at Deloitte in their education and social impact service line, so to speak. And now the transition to Haas. There's honestly, I feel like the portfolio of people, there's 2 types of people that were in the class. There was former consultants that really wanted to engage in more meaningful work, and then people that were really interested in consulting. So I would say if you fall into one of these buckets, this is kind of or if you just want to explore consulting, this is kind of a perfect class really to take. I know for me, I really gained a lot of core skills out of consulting, and the whole reason why I took the class was of the client. So I'm sure Nora presented that same kind of little matrix last year, and I saw a client. I'm really passionate about education, and there's a client, Common App, which is what I ended up working with. So really driven by the client experience.
Why don't you go ahead and explain what you did with Common App and what you in particular worked on?
Yeah, super interesting project. Just by a quick show of hands, how many of you used the Common App when you applied to undergrad? If you remember that simple, it's called the Common App or the Common Application. I'm just gonna look at, okay, Kevin used the Common App, that's nice. Dustin, we got a couple, okay, so maybe only a couple people. So the interesting thing about the Common App is that they typically, if you all aren't familiar, Common App basically is a central application portal that you can apply to multiple different schools using one application. So if I wanted to apply to UC Berkeley, USC, and UCLA, I could apply through one application, and basically there might be a different essay question each, but my name, date of birth, all that is centralized, right? So typically Common App works with 4-year colleges and universities, your classic kind of large state schools or what have you, the 4 years. And they were like, well, we've never really played with community colleges. We don't really have the community colleges on our platform, so to speak, but we don't really have any relationships with community colleges, right? I mean, think about if you got one school in the Pac-12, you're more likely to, or if you have a bunch of schools in the Pac-12, you're more likely to get them all. So they were like, hey, we want to reach out to community colleges. We don't really have a strategy around it. What should we do? And our team came together with different recommendations on how to engage the community college market. But at a high level, that's really what we worked on. We finally got the 2 final recommendations, but it was an awesome experience and something really cool and creative. I'm sure you all can see when Nora shows the slide for all the different projects, there's probably 1 or 2 projects that gives you a little bit of an itch. The one you're really curious in reading. That's probably the project you should do because it's gonna be a lot of work, but it's definitely worth it.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.
Kai, you want to catch us up? What did you work on? And
Yeah, no problem. My client called Learning by Giving. They are a strategic philanthropy education that not only is one of the kind of the foundation for giving the funding to school, mainly universities, to initiate a series of the courses and hold it every year and give them about 10,000 to give to the local NPO NGO, so nonprofit. So that is a student will learn during this semester what's the most beneficial for the community and do the research and compete for their own decision that which one worth the money, and in the end they give the money to the community and really help them and really help educate the students to learn what is strategic philanthropy. And I like this idea because I was used to help by the NPO that I'm coming from humble background, and when I was in my undergrad, I attend educational program, and they really changed my mind. And I was from Taiwan, and they helped me a lot through my application to MBA. And I really like to how the education can make a difference, and they really trying to streamline all the process of them. But you know, there's COVID-19, and the funding was mainly sponsored by Doris Buffett, and that is unfortunately she recently passed away, and they are foresee this kind of accident to happen, so they try to make a better plan of their financial model and their organizational setting. So we really dig into all their organization and see what's the best strategy for this organization to thrive and to fundraise more and make a bigger impact.
Okay, thank you. So let me turn it over to both of you now. You know, thinking about what was best and worst for you, what advice would you give people who are thinking about becoming team members?
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to kick this off. Okay, is that okay? Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of the advice, and this kind of, this definitely goes back to probably I would say the coolest thing about the class is that like this is a real problem that a real organization is having, and you're like asked to solve it. I think one of the things, if you're kind of new to consulting too, in school, right? There's a case we do, and then there's like an answer sheet. There's always an answer, right? We're trying to get to with a lot of problems or what we have. This is going to be one of the first classes you might even take where there's not an answer. Like they are looking for you to provide the answer. So sometimes you're just like, wait, what? Like there's not an answer. Like how am I supposed to solve this? But it's a really cool opportunity to really improve your critical thinking skills and problem solving skills to really like move the needle forward. Even if you come from a consulting background like myself, and you're interested in, or you're thinking about something like this, the roles that you even go into in an entry level consulting role is you're fairly reactive, right? Like you're kind of you're doing a lot of slides, you're maybe analyzing the data, but you're not really thinking through the high level, what is the solution we're actually trying to get to? And this class in social sector solutions is really a unique opportunity for you to really be in the driver's seat. Your team lead will probably divide up different parts of the work, and you're actually really driving your work. And it doesn't matter if you're the only undergrad on the team, it doesn't matter if you're not an MBA student on the team, and most people are, or if you are an MBA student. Everyone's going to have, you're going to be responsible for work to be delivered. And I think it's a really cool way of doing it in a safe way, so to speak. This is an academic playground. You have the resources, as Nora mentioned. But I would say like the biggest kind of piece of advice there, and again, contributing towards like the most positive thing, is that like this is a really, really unique opportunity. You want to be fully invested into it. As Nora mentioned, this is not something that you think about applying for, or you put some points down. If this is an experience that you really want to be a part of your graduate or undergraduate experience, you really want to invest in it. YK, any thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Maybe I can share what I am not able to share, but it's all right. If you want to add me to the screen share, I have a slide, but it's just one. And I think mainly I can give is very echo to what the Segar has said. That is the scope is very different from even the entry level consulting that we started from in consulting called SOW, and here like the statement of purpose. That's you really need to think of what the 5 or 6 person team can help the client and we really kind of structure all the projects. That is in a very, it might be pre-deal of the in consulting world that the managing director are doing so. They say, oh, what can we sell? But here we really need to think for a higher picture, say, how can we leverage this 3 months, 5 months to help our client thrive? And that is a risk. I won't say it's totally risk-free, but it definitely, there's a lot of it to try down. And I personally try to do more. For example, I did the storytelling for a pitch for a client, and I did a very sophisticated financial model that I never done with my consulting client, because I think that is maybe too fancy for them. But that is very interactive. We try to leverage different technology and doing some script that I come from engineering background. I can write some script for helping that strategy down. What if scenario? And for the real enterprise world, it may be a little bit of risk. You can see in the consulting, there is a very specific format of what you should follow. What's the slide format? And you can see like the title should be a complete sentence and everything. But here, actually, it's for everyone. You can try to think in others' shoes in what should they expect, and they don't need to really follow everything. And you can think of high level, what can you help the client most? And like Soka said, the investment will be very important, because that is, if you take it as a usual subject that you just take an exam, that you won't get anything from this class, because every week you'll talk to McKinsey consultant, every week talk to client once or twice, and this really the time that you can testify your ideas and your proposals. And if you don't propose anything, then you won't learn that what your idea will be testified in the real world. So I would say be more proactive in testing and experiment, and you will have a great consulting and also the nonprofit experience.
Thank you. Shall we open up to questions now? Anything?
Oh,
Just real quickly, Nora, I've added YK as the co-host, or Stephanie added him as the co-host, so you can
Okay.
share his
can you see
screen.
my screen?
Yep.
Yeah, that is, I made for, I think that is not only the domain knowledge that I gain a lot, that I really love to see, that maybe in the near future I can step into a philanthropic world. And the consulting experience, I think most of you might want to learn, and you have a full experience of it. If you're an entry-level consultant, you might need to do the slides or maybe do modeling, but now you can get more. And experience is what I like, that we got a comradeship, and learn some of the undergrads that we become very close friend, and I get back to committee. That's all.
Thank you, Yankai. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, questions?
Hi, Nora. I have a quick
Share
question
if we
for
can.
you.
Mhm.
How do we access the application link that you posted on your presentation?
The link should be online.
Okay,
If you Google, there you go.
perfect. Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
I came in late to the meeting, so I don't know if you addressed this, Nora. But
Yeah.
are there, so there's basically 7 teams with 4 members of each team. And so if there are, more MBAs or represented in the application pool, is there just a slot or a set of slots available for non-MBAs, or how does that work?
No, there isn't. I mean,
Okay.
theoretically, if we got all MBAs, we would go with all MBAs. What we might do is open up another slot. We have had teams that have 6 total rather than 5. So that's probably what we would do.
Hi there, I have a question. I'm an undergraduate business major, and I was wondering what kind of qualifications you expect out of an undergraduate, since it seems like there's fewer of them.
Right. but more apply. And so what we're looking for is probably a junior or a senior. Do you fit that?
I do. I'm a junior.
There you go. All right. And then from there, you know, we have undergraduate, there's not a set formula, Danielle. I mean, some undergraduates have past consulting experience in the Berkeley group or Net Impact or something like that. That's obviously a plus. Finance experience is often what undergrads bring. In fact, each year at the end of S cubed, we ask, part of the grade is given by the client, the value of the consultation. Part of the grade is given by team leads who assess the contributions, the relative contributions of all of the team members. And for the last as far back as I can remember, and at least 2 or 3 of the teams, the undergrad is ranked the top contributor. Often that is financial modeling, specific internet skills, research skills. It could be marketing. It could be knowledge of some particular issue. Sagar and Yankai, did you have that experience? What did your undergrads do? Where did they focus or where did they bring value?
Oh, our undergrad was phenomenon. They are great. They actually, one of them went into VCPE, one of them into Goldman Sachs. So they are super good in financial modeling. But I don't be intimidated by that. Because they did it before, and they try to do more interpersonal skill, and we try to like interview different schools. And from the first to the maybe 10th school, we all see each other got the significant improve than how we should engage with like calling people and knowing like to really extract the information that we need from that. I think that's very useful consulting skill and even career skill for getting the information from a very short or very concise meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is from the undergrad perspective is just being eager to learn. I think it's an interesting dynamic where you are the only undergrad in a room full of people that have had, 4 to 8 years of work experience, and you're sitting there on the Tuesday night meeting and people are like, oh yeah, we used to do this, or we did this. And as an undergrad, you can really only apply it maybe to some of the clubs or curriculars or maybe a summer internship. But as long as you're eager to learn, I think that's going to set you up for the most success. One thing we also did in our group was we made sure the undergrad we had in our group, her name was Abby Kai. She ended up working with each person on the team in it for a different kind of project or role. And that allowed her to have more experience. So I would say, even if you're as an undergrad, if you get selected, definitely push like, this is also my learning objective and this is what I want to get out of it. Don't feel like you need to constantly be reactive in the sense just because of the nature of the team dynamic.
Great, thank you.
When we're scanning and looking at, the applications, Danielle, I mentioned commitment in one of the slides. That's really the bottom line, what we're looking for. If you're willing to commit to this, if you can communicate to us and really be resolved. I mean, this is no joke. This is a live consultation. These people are paying for it with both money and their time, the clients. So if you are serious about it, we don't want to hear things like, well, it's finals week, I can't be available. If you're a serious worker here, we will hear that and we will value that above everything.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure. Any other questions? Sagar, Yankai, anything you haven't said yet that you'd like to make sure people hear? No? Okay. Well, then let me conclude, and I'll stay on for a while if anybody has particular questions that they just want to discuss one-on-one or in a small group. And let me just share this with you, because we're asking you to make a big commitment of time and to a client. And so one of the questions that Paul and I get every year is this will be our 14th year of doing this. And why we continue to do it is because it's different every year. Depending on the clients, it is completely different. And we love doing it. We love working with one another. It's just been a really wonderful work experience. And we both came back to Haas after careers, Paul at McKinsey. I founded or ran 3 different social enterprises and consulted, but we came back to Haas really to help you develop. That's why we're here. We're here for students. And this class, we don't know the answers either. We right now have the same questions in front of us that you have. We don't know the answers. We're there to help you, but as teams, you will do the research. You will decide the answers. You will pitch them to the clients. We'll help. We'll be thought partners with you. But we really turn this class kind of on its head in that way, in that you are leading the charge with your clients. And we think that that's what's special about it. That's certainly what's special about it to us as instructors. And at the end of the day, we have real life outcomes in organizations that, follow growth plans, like Berkeley Food Network is back because they're, after their startup plan, they're growing, but real things happening in the world because of this work. And is that at the end of the day, somebody like Urban Ed Academy is able to really create a fellowship program that builds up a community and has kids having teachers that look like them and understand their experience, and provides good careers for people coming out of college, or, designing spaces where people coming out of prison actually have a safe and dignified place to live. So just to pick 2, but that's what we're really in it about. So if you share any of that kind of curiosity or passion, please join us in S Cubed. And thank you for coming today. Again, we'll stay on for a little while. And if you have any other questions or concerns, happy to talk to you. Thank you again.